welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in this video I'm going to be going over CSS animations. And so by the end of this video you'll be able to create this by yourself without any help if you really want to. And before I actually get started, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any new important videos, lessons, or tutorials. Now, to add animation to an object, we first have to create it. So I'm going to make a div, and you can make whatever element you want. Now I'm going to actually open my CSS file over here, select the div, and I'm going to style it a bit. So I'm just going to set the width and height to something. So let's do 100 pixels by, let's do height 100 pixels. And then let's set the background color so we can actually see it. And I'm going to set this to, let's set this to black so we can make sure that we can see it. And I have to link my CSS file. So let's do that, fix this. And there we go. So here's my square, and let's change the color to something a bit nicer. So I'm gonna set this to, let's do dark green, so somewhere around here. There we go. And now what we're gonna do is use something called keyframes, which is basically like a JavaScript function. So to create it, we have to go on top of our div. We're gonna write @keyframes, and then we're gonna name it. So I'm just gonna name it animation. We can change that later. And then we have to use the curly brackets. So it's pretty similar to JavaScript function. So we write function and then the name. But the only thing we don't do is use the round brackets. So here we set it, we define it as a function. Here we define it as a keyframe. And then here is basically the name of the function and then the name of the keyframe. So now once we've done that, inside of it, we have to write from, curly brackets, and then to, and then curly brackets. So basically, from is where the animation is going to start, and then to is where it's going to end. So what I mean is here we're going to put the styles that are going to be set. So it's kind of like the default styles at the start of the animation. And then this is, so here, let me actually just show you an example. So we're going to set the from to the background color of our div right here, and then we're gonna change it to something else. So I'm gonna change it to, let's do cyan or light blue. Now once we've done that, I'm gonna actually change it to something else. Let's do orange. So once we've done this, we have to add the animation to our div or element. And to do that, we have to write animation name and set it to the name of the keyframe. So in my case, it's going to be animation. And if I save it right now, we can see that it doesn't work. And that's because we have to add one more thing, which is the animation duration. I'm going to set this to 3 seconds. And if I save it now, we can see that the color changes gradually. So let's actually change this from green to, let's do blue. We can make it longer, so we can do 6 seconds, and now it's going to be a lot slower. So we can do a lot more than just change the background color. So we can make it go from, let's say, width of 100 to, we can change it to a width of 200. And now we can see it basically move to the right. So it's a pretty cool animation that we have, and we can make this a lot better. So what I'm going to do is actually change the height here to 50 pixels, and then I'm going to set this to maybe 400 pixels, and I'm going to make this a lot faster. And let's actually change it to blue. So let's go from here to here. Yeah, so that should be good. And so now it actually looks like a loading animation, and we can make this even faster. So, and make this larger. And there we go. So that looks like a loading animation now, which is really cool. And so now that I'm watching over my clips, I realized that I forgot to go over one really important thing in the keyframes. So the next clip is basically going to go back to the previous clip. So all the progress that we're going to do in this clip is basically going to be gone in the next one. So you don't have to erase what we're going to go over right now. So basically the important thing was that there isn't only from and then to. So from is basically like saying 0%, and then to is going to be 100. Now let's say that I wanted to do something at 50%. Well, we can really do that with writing from to. So we can actually use percentage or change this to percentage signs. So we can set 0 and then 100 to this. And if we save this, then we can see that nothing changed. So let's actually fix this a bit. So I'm going to set the width here instead of 500 pixels. We can do 100% here. And so now it's basically going to go full like this. And then here we can actually just change this to 0%. Same thing here. So I'm going to set this to 0%. And I was going to start from nothing. And then, yeah, all right. So basically what we can do now is write 50. So at 50% of the animation, we can do something. So I'm actually going to write this or paste this in here. And let's change the color to something else. So let's do red. And now we can see that it's going to change to 3 different colors. And well, one thing we can do here is change this to 100% and then change this back to 0. So now this is what it's going to look like. And we can actually double this. So 4 seconds like this. There we go. And so now it's going to go to 100% and go back to 0. And if you wanted it to end at the same color, then instead of doing something like this, right, and then going back to this color, what we can do is just, it's kind of like CSS, so we can do something like this, and then 100%, and then we can erase it because the width is going to end up being the same, and the color as 0%, so now we can see it work the exact same way, just a lot shorter. I'm going to actually fix something, so I'm going to select everything, and then we're going to set the margin here to 0. So there we go, like this. And now if we wanted to add more colors, then we can do something like 25%. Then we're going to change the background color to something else like this. Let's copy this, paste it here. And then I'm going to actually change this to, let's do orange. This one I'm going to do yellow. It's going to be RGB basically, and then we're going to change this to, let's do pink, and this is going to be 75%. And so now if I reload, then we're going to end up with this really cool animation, and it's also going to go back like this. And so the next clip, like I said before, is basically we're not going to have all this part. It's going to go back to the old animation. So don't worry about that. Just worry about what I'm going to go over or the new parts I'm going to go over. And if you want to comment this out, then you can comment this part out. And then you can duplicate it and comment it and then basically just copy the old animation that we had so that you wouldn't have to ruin all of this. There's a lot more things that we can do. So if I write animation here, we can see all of these other things that we can do, which I'm actually going to go over later in this video, so make sure that you keep watching. But what I'm going to go over now is something called transform. So we're going to write transform here, and then we can see that there's a lot of attributes here. And if I, let's say, choose rotate, and then I write something like 90 degrees and save it, now we're going to see something like this. So I'm going to actually just comment out the animation, and I'm going to comment this out. So this is what it looks like by default or without this transform. And then this is what it looks like with it. So basically what we did here is we rotated our div by 90 degrees. And this means that we can also do this in the animation. So I'm gonna actually just delete this here, and then I'm gonna paste it here like this. So we're gonna go from transform of rotate to from 0 to this, and so this is what it would look like now. I'm gonna uncomment the animation, and now we can see something like this. And this looks pretty weird because we're changing the width, so let's remove this like that. And then if I save this now, we can see it rotate. Now we can actually change this to 360, so it's going to do a full circle. There we go. And that's how you add a rotation to your animation. And there's a lot more that we can do, so I'm going to fix this or change it to what it was before. So like this, let's remove the rotate and see what else we have. So we have, let's take a look, we have scales. So let's use the scale here. If I do something like 1.5 and save it, now we can see that our div here is a lot larger. So if we go here, and then I'm going to actually just remove this, paste it here, and uncomment this out, we can see that our div actually becomes larger. So 1 is basically the default value, and then if I do 2, then it's going to grow 2 times bigger. So this is how the scale works. Let's go back again, and I'm going to go over something that's pretty nice. So it's called translate. You can use the Y or the X, but I'm just going to use the X in this case. And if I write something like 200 pixels, then we're going to see it go to the right by 200 pixels, and if I do negative, then it's going to do the opposite. It's going to go to the left. But basically, we can move our div here by adding this to our animation. So I'm going to copy this, paste it in here, and then I'm going to just delete the width like this. Let's uncomment the animation again. And so now we can see our div move. And this obviously works with Y too. So let's change this to Y. And now it's going to move down instead of the x-axis, so side to side. And you can actually do this without putting it in the keyframes. So we can do something like this. We can delete this. We can comment this out. And we can just paste it in here. And we can see that there's no really animation or any sort of nice touch to it. So what we can actually do is write transition, and then we're gonna write the amount of time. So in this case, we did 2 seconds for our animation. We can do the same thing. So if we write 2 seconds, we're gonna see it basically fade into the transform. And so what I'm going to go over right now is a few more properties and their values. So the next property I'm going to talk about is going to be delay. So let's choose this one. And if I set this to 1 second and save this, then we can see that there's going to be a 1 second delay. If I do, let's do 2 seconds, we're going to see that there's going to be 2 seconds, and then the animation is going to start. So this is basically a delay. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, or property, is basically going to set the amount of times we want the animation to run. So we're gonna write animation, and then we're gonna see the iteration count. So it's gonna be this property. And if I set this to 2, then now we're gonna see this animation run twice. So once, and then twice. We can move this out for now. And so if we set this to 0, then we're gonna see nothing because we're setting the animation count to basically 0. So it's gonna run 0 times, and 1 is gonna be the default, so you don't really need to do that. But then if you want this animation to run forever, it's gonna be infinite. Yeah, so if we write infinite, then we're gonna see this animation always run, and it's never gonna stop unless you do something. But this is basically how you can set the animation count to infinite. And what I'm actually going to do now is go over how we can write all of this in just one line. And to do that, we're actually going to go here under. I'm going to comment the infinite so that it doesn't go on for infinite. And so we're going to write animation. And I'm basically going to use all of this to copy the values from the properties. So we're going to start with the name. So the name is going to be animation. So that's basically the name of the keyframes. After that, we do the duration, so 2 seconds. And so here we have something that's going to be called, or the property is going to be called animation, and then timing function. I'm going to set this to ease right now, and I'm going to go over this in a second. So ease, and then comes the delay, which we can set this to 1 second. And then the last thing is going to be the iteration count, and in my case, it's going to be infinite. So now if we comment all of this out, then we can see the animation work. And what the animation timing function is this. I'm gonna go here, and if we click on this, then you're gonna see this red circle, and this is the speed of the animation. So this is gonna be ease. This is gonna be ease and out. So we can see it basically goes at different speeds. And if we actually take a look here, we can notice a few differences, but they're really small, so you can just keep it at ease. It's not really going to change anything. And so this is where I'm going to end this tutorial. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, then leave a like, sub to the channel for more content like this, leave a comment down below if you have any video requests or questions, and hopefully see you in the next video.